Call this meeting of the Plan Commission to order. Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ash. Here. Ms. Bindum.
Here.
Mr. Fell.
Here.
Mr. Fitch.
Here.
Mr. Hopkins. Mr. Otto.
Here.
Ms. Stake. And Ms. Yupa Bant.
We do have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Engstrom. Minutes. We've got two sets of minutes here, one from December 19th Plan Commission meeting and then one from January 23rd, which was essentially pro forma because the two cases were continued. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve minutes. Can I do both of them?
Sure, do both.
To approve minutes of December 19th and January 23rd. I second.
Moved by Mr. Fell, seconded by Mr. Otto. We'll do this on a single voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes are approved. Do we have any communications?
No.
We have a public hearing, plan case 2223 CP14 for the Champaign County Greenways and Trails Plan. That case is going to be continued while I guess the regional commission continues to seek Department of Transportation approval.
Yes, actually they have gotten their comments back from the state, so we will be moving forward with that as soon as they've incorporated those comments.
Great, thank you. Under old business, we have plan case number 2220S13. This is a request for a waiver of the stormwater management requirements in the subdivision and land development code for Countryside Second Subdivision. And I believe we're going to continue this one as well because the developer, Mr. Marcus Harris, is still working on a stormwater management plan.
Correct.
Great. Now we have new public hearing, plan case number 2224 M14, a request by Rudolph A. Frasca to rezone a parcel approximately 1.871 acres north of Anthony Drive, east of Willow Road, in the IN1 Light Industrial Office Zoning District. Wants to rezone it to B3 General Business Zoning District. Mr. Engstrom.
All right. To B3 Central Business, and as I mentioned, the petitioner simultaneously has submit a subdivision final plat to create the parcel. Because that plat conforms to the preliminary plat for the area, that plat skips Plan Commission and goes straight to City Council. So they will be seeing that on March 17th. But the rezoning does need to go through Plan Commission recommendation. It's a 1.871 acre tract. Let's see. I guess we'll just take a look at the tract and the area around it. It's indicated here with the hash mark. Just to the west of O'Brien Auto Park and directly north of Soccer Planet, and to the east of APL Engineered Materials. This area has both regional businesses and industrial businesses. To the west of Willow Road is more industrial, and further south there's the Brailer Truck Shop, which is also industrial. But otherwise, it's more regional, commercial type businesses. Here's the zoning. It's B3. Soccer Planet is currently B3. O'Brien Auto Park is B3. Michelle's Bridal is also B3. And looking at the 2005 comprehensive plan, future land use map, the area is shown as the pink color, which is regional business. Regional business centers are intended to serve the region as well as local demand typically located in a high visibility area. They offer convenient access and parking. Intensity of development may range from large big box to smaller scale businesses. They're typically auto-oriented, but they may also include facilities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit. A couple comprehensive plan goals that are relevant to the case. Goal 15, encourage compact, contiguous, and sustainable growth patterns. This is directly north of developed area, so it's not leapfrog development. It's contiguous. Goal 25, create additional commercial areas to strengthen the city's tax base. And Goal 31, retain and expand existing business and industries. So basically, let me pull up the Google map here. This is Soccer Planet. It's a business that was brought about, I think, in 2012. It's an indoor soccer facility. They have a retail shop, a cafe, and a parking lot that wraps around here. The proposal is basically just to create a new lot to the north, rezone it B3, so it will be a contiguous zoning parcel for the owner, and to allow for them to expand their parking lot to accommodate all their success. And I could also pull up the plans they've submitted for that expansion of the parking lot. In this plan, north is to the right. There's Willow Road is along the top. The existing parking is shown here on the left side, and they're basically planning to expand the parking to the north and to add a driveway onto Willow Road. And it looks like there will be a net gain of about 26 parking spaces. The LaSalle criteria, the criteria we look at for rezoning, we look at the existing land uses and zoning of the nearby property. Already went through that. There's other businesses and B3 properties in the area. The extent to which property values are diminished by the restrictions of the ordinance. Under the current zoning, soccer facility is not allowed, so by rezoning it, the whole 2 combined tracks will be allowed to operate as a soccer facility with the expanded parking. Criteria 3 and 4, the extent to which the ordinance promotes the health, safety, and morals and general welfare of the public, or the relative gain to the public as compared to hardship opposed upon individual property owners. The proposed rezoning basically would not harm the health, safety, or morals of the general public, and there would be no gain to the public if we were to deny the rezoning, although there would be a hardship imposed upon the property owner. Criteria 5, the suitability of the subject property for zone purposes. The subject property is currently vacant, I think used for agriculture, so it's suitable to be developed in harmony with the adjacent business. And the final criteria is the length of time the property has been vacant. It is currently vacant, but there's no evidence that it's vacant because of the current zoning. It's kind of an irrelevant criteria here. Options tonight, Plan Commission may forward the case to City Council with a recommendation for approval, or forward the case to Council with a recommendation for denial of the proposed rezoning. The staff recommendation is to forward the case to Council with a recommendation for approval. The developer is here if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to take staff questions.
Any questions for Mr. Engstrom? Mr. Otto.
There's reference under discussion on page 3 to the possibility of expanding an additional soccer field in the future. Is that, would that also be an indoor facility? Can one have outdoor recreation in that zoning? Do you have any idea there?
Yes, either indoor or outdoor would be allowed in that district, and the plans would be a question for the developer.
Anything further? Questions? I think that's good. Thank you, Mr. Engstrom. Let me briefly outline our procedures for public hearing. Petitioner may outline the request and address this and present evidence. Other proponents of the case may present evidence. Opponents of the case may, with a material interest, may present evidence and ask questions of the petitioner through me. Other people may speak to the case. Staff may make additional comments or clarification. Petitioner then may rebut and may present a summary of their position. Then we'll close the public hearing, and the Plan Commission will discuss the case and may vote. So if the petitioner is here, if you'd like to address us, you don't have to, but you can if you want.
I guess I'm the petitioner.
Yeah, if you could come up to the,
Okay.
so we can get you on television.
Oh, good evening. I think everything's pretty much been addressed by Mr. Engstrom. We're here primarily to ask for rezoning based on the business has gone well. We actually opened in October of 2011, and one of the major reasons we're wanting to expand north is to allow for additional parking. Our season is really from October to March because we're an indoor facility. And what we found pretty quickly actually was we needed more parking. We had an agreement with Creative Thermal Solutions, which is straight across the street. They're a primarily Monday through Friday business. And have a lot of parking spaces. So we've kind of been borrowing parking from them for a number of years. So we realized that we need to address this problem. And we could have carved out a piece to just allow for that, but we thought let's continue the lot to the east to allow us to expand in the future. We don't have any short-term plans to expand. I think if we did initially, it would be outdoor fields that we could use in the summertime that would allow us to run summer camps. We do indoor camps in the summer, which are okay, but we would do a lot better if we had outdoor fields as well. So that's something we may do this summer and see how that works. But I think the long-term goal, pardon the pun, would be to add another building, another indoor building. And if we see continued success, this is year 3, and we're up about 20% generally. We're starting to draw teams from as far as Pekin, Illinois. We've got regular teams coming from Charleston, Danville. So we're starting to see communities from outside of our community come and play once a week. So it's encouraging, but this rezoning would allow us initially to address a problem that we've had since day one, and future expansion.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Frasca?
It's actually Mr. Berry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Mr. Frasca is the current
I see.
landowner.
Could you sign that sheet while you're up there?
Absolutely,
if you
yeah.
would. Any questions? Looks like we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the Plan Commission on this case? No. So I'll close the public hearing and we'll open it up for discussion. Anybody have any thoughts they'd like to share or questions, concerns? Any motions?
I would
Mr.
move,
Ash.
yes, indeed, I would move that we forward Plan Case 2224 M14 to the City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Moved by Mr. Ash, seconded by Ms. Upabant. Barring further discussion, as soon as you're ready, we can have a roll call.
Ms. Bynum?
Yes.
Mr. Fell?
Yes.
Mr. Fitch?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Ms. Upabant? And Mr. Ash?
Yes.
That motion is approved, I believe. And so that'll be forwarded to the City Council for final action
March 17th.
March 17th. Thank you. All right, now we'll open plan case, under new business, plan case 2226 M14, approval of the official 2014 zoning map of the City of Urbana.
Right. This is our annual review of the zoning map. So we have distributed copies of the draft 2014 zoning map. And really, it's just an update of the map to reflect the cases that have been approved over the past year. To highlight those changes, let's see. There's been a few changes. Plan Commission saw a case over on Lincoln Avenue and Hill Street a few times to rezone some properties in this area. Here. From R2 to B2. So those properties have been rezoned on the map. And additionally, over in the Wildberry Acres subdivision, if I could find it. Okay. So the Wildberry Acres subdivision is a subdivision that has an annexation agreement, which we are now contiguous to, and we have been working our way through those 6 properties through City Council, getting annexation petitions. So far, 4 of the properties have been officially annexed. So those 4 properties are now shown on the map as AG Agriculture, which is a direct conversion from their county zoning of AG to agricultural. And those are all single-family, large lot, rural subdivision properties. So those are the major changes. So the 3.39 acres that have been annexed and the, let's see, and the 4 properties rezoned on Lincoln Avenue. And additional changes to the zoning map. There was one historic landmark designated over the last year that's been added here, the 1207 South Busey Reed Sutton House. And just one other thing to point out, on the Boneyard Creek District, this is the district that encompasses properties that touch the Boneyard Creek floodplain, and there are special zoning provisions for that district. Any development basically needs to be approved by the Boneyard Creek Commission, and in some cases has to go through Plan Commission as well. So in 2013, the Federal Emergency Management Agency approved new changed maps for the floodplain around the Boneyard Creek, and that means we need to update our map to reflect that. We have not had time to get to that quite yet due to staff shortages, but that will be a rezoning case that will be coming pretty soon to Plan Commission. So those are all the changes in the zoning map. It's available on our website, urbanaillinois.us/zoning, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Upaban?
Show the Boneyard Creek on here?
Yeah, there's little dots.
Is that, I couldn't figure it out.
See it?
Yep.
Is it there along Main Street? Is that the,
The creek is in blue, and then the short
I s-
dashed line is the Creek District.
okay, thanks.
Right. And you can see it just kind of winds around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you said that they're going to be, I don't want to hear that case before it's time, but they're going to be, they're going to be changing the boundaries?
Yes, there were a few properties that are no longer in the flood district, and a couple that are now in the floodplain. So some minor changes.
And this is as a result of the federal standards
Yes.
changing? Okay. Any further questions on the zoning map for Mr. Engstrom? Thank you. And the rules for public hearing that I outlined in the last case are going to be followed in this case as well. Is there anyone who wants to address the Plan Commission regarding the draft 2014 zoning map? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Any motions? Ms. Upaban?
Wow. I got one. I move we send Plan Case 2226-M-14, the annual update of the official zoning map, to the City Council with the recommendation of approval or acceptance or whatever.
Approval.
Thank you.
And motion by Ms. Upaban, second by Mr. Ash. And a roll call when you are ready.
Mr. Fell?
Yes.
Mr. Fitch?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Ms. Upaban?
Yes?
Mr. Ash?
Yes.
And Ms. Bindum?
Yes.
The motion passes. And the City Council, well, this map will become official.
Yeah, City Council will hear the case on March 17th, and it will be official as soon as they vote on it and the mayor signs the ordinance.
Great. Thank you. Last case of new business we have is a Champaign County zoning case. Case CCZBA 768 AT 13. A request by the county to amend sections of the county zoning ordinance regarding heliport restricted landing area.
All right, thank you. So this is a case where the county, Champaign County Zoning Board of Appeals have voted to forward this text amendment to the county board, and now they are ready for our input. We get these periodically where the Plan Commission and City Council should review the changes to see if there's any impact on the city and if we should adopt a resolution of protest or not for the text amendment. If the city does adopt a resolution of protest, then it would require a 3/4 majority at the county board to approve the county text amendments. In this particular case, they are adding some standards for heliports and for restricted landing areas. Heliports are pretty self-explanatory. A restricted landing area is basically an airstrip on some flat land. It's not an airport. It's only for private use, either for recreational or for agricultural use in general. Just an area where people take off and land if they're doing crop dusting or going on a flight for fun. And basically the proposed text changes would create a new buffer around these heliports and restricted landing areas that would prevent, let's see, a few use. Okay. So it would have to be more than 800 feet from the nearest property zoned CR, conservation recreation. And the reason for this one basically is the approach and the takeoff areas. They want to keep clear from trees, which could be very tall and possibly interfere with approach and takeoff. Another standard would be, let's see, the no part of the approach or takeoff path may be less than 100 feet above the nearest CR, Conservation Recreation District. The approach and takeoff path, which is the area extending from the end of the runway, I think I have a picture here. It's the area extending from the end of the runway in the hash mark here, and it's basically a 1 to 15 foot slope. So for every 15 feet of horizontal distance, it goes up 1 foot vertical. Let's see. Final approach and takeoff area may be no closer than 1,320 feet from the nearest dwelling under different ownership than the owner of the heliport or restricted landing area. So you can have one on your own property, but if there's an adjacent property, it has to be at least 1,320 feet away. And the heliport restricted landing area shall be no closer than 300 feet from the nearest property under different ownership. So there's a 300-foot setback proposed. And for all of these proposed conditions, they would be conditions for the special use permit, which goes through the Champaign County Zoning Board of Appeals anytime one of these uses is proposed. And these conditions are proposed to be adopted for a trial period of 1 year, basically to see how they work. If they do work well, then the county board would probably vote to adopt them at the end of that 1 year trial. So that is really a quick summary of the proposed amendment. Zoning impacts for the city of Urbana. We don't have any heliports or restricted landing areas within our 1.5 mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. Really all we have, we've got a heliport. Actually, we don't even have a heliport, but Carl Hospital has their helicopter landing pad. And Frasca Field is an airport, which is not a restricted landing area. It's a full airport. Those are both within the city, and there are basically none of these types of uses within our ETJ adjacent to the city. So for the time being, there would be no impacts on the city with these proposed changes. And staff recommendation for this case is to forward the case to City Council with a recommendation to defeat a resolution of protest.
Thank you, Mr. Engstrom. Any questions? Mr. Otto?
How often is it that someone introduces language like this for 365 days. I'm puzzled by what's going on here. It seems like there's a backstory that we're not being told.
Well, I think there was a case that was denied. There was a proposed heliport or restricted landing area before the county zoning board, which was denied. And during their discussion, they discussed adding these options, which is why the case was being brought forward. But as to your question, how often do they have trial conditions? I haven't heard of it before.
It's not uncommon for laws to sunset, but 1 year is an awful short.
I can understand you would do a trial if you get 10 or 15 of these requests a year, and then you see how it works. But this is very
It's weird,
unusual,
yeah.
and I'm wondering if there's some attempt here to head off some special event that after a year it will be a dead issue, and they don't want to be saddled with this forever because these are really, really wide setbacks. And so,
Yeah, maybe we could mull that over a little bit more in discussion, and yeah, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have one clarification. So in regard to the setbacks, which are, so on your diagram there, essentially the 1,320 applies to the outer ring, and the 300 applies to the inner ring. And then there's a mention in here that federal regulations and Illinois Department of Transportation, furthermore, no home can be placed in the takeoff and landing areas, which are those trapezoidal or triangular shaded areas.
Correct.
So actually, on either end of the runway, there's really effectively another buffer that extends to the end of the landing and takeoff zone.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
I have a
Mr.
question
Bell.
kind of along those lines, and maybe it's a silly point, but the restricted landing area has to be 1,320 feet away from a house, essentially, but 300 feet away from a property line. What if somebody owns property and then wants to build his house 300 feet from the restricted landing area? Can he close it down?
I don't think so. I think that would be a coming to the nuisance situation where the house would just be at the risk of the person building the house, but would not affect. It would basically become a legal non-conforming situation.
Any further questions for Mr. Engstrom? All right. Thanks, sir. And consistent with our rules, does anybody want to address the Plan Commission on this case? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and we'll go into discussion. So, Mr. Otto, you raised an interesting point.
I'm sorry that I didn't have time to go on the county website to see if there's any information there. But I just find this a curious request. I'm trying to figure out how it affects or could affect the city.
I do have a little additional background. These proposed conditions are similar to something that is in effect up in Kane County. And it looks like some citizens attended the County Environmental Land Use Committee and asked that they consider these conditions based on what works up in Kane County.
Mr. Ash?
Yes, do you know when the county zoning board considered this? At what meeting, or is there any date of information that you may have?
They first considered it on January 8th and then again February 6th.
February 6th of this year.
Yes. And the process for the county is it goes through the Champaign County Zoning Board of Appeals. Then it goes up to the County Board Environmental Land Use Committee. and they hold it for a month. And if there's no input from the city, or if there is input from the cities, then they forward it to the county board.
Anything further? Mr. Ash?
No, that's all.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Bynum?
So we're voting to see if we want to implement these?
Well, I was going to explain that. This is one of these double negative cases that we get from time to time. And so the county is going to pass this ordinance, and the city council, City of Urbana and Champaign have a chance to protest it. So what our recommendation will be to the council will be either to defeat motion of protest, which would mean if we vote yes now, we're telling the council to vote no if somebody files a resolution of protest. So it's kind of, we're telling the council that we don't want them to protest it if we accept staff's recommendation. Alternatively, we could say we want the council to approve a resolution of protest if one is introduced. But regardless of which way we go, it doesn't mean that the council is there's going to be a resolution of protest either way. It doesn't, so this strictly, we're saying if somebody opposes it, vote no or yes on their opposition.
And I know you said that probably the OPEB is wrong, impact our OPEB or anything else.
Correct, yeah. It won't impact the existing facilities in the city at all.
Or Frasca Field.
Right.
Anything further? Does that help? These were, when I first started on the Plan Commission, these were very confusing votes. You're voting yes to tell the council to vote no, or to vote yes, depending on, what happens. Okay?
So after the 365 days are up, they can't go to maintain the restrictions?
I presume it'll revert to the existence, the restrictions that are currently in the ordinance.
That's correct, yes. They would have to reintroduce another bill to make these permanent.
Do you know what those are right now? The setbacks in the current ordinance?
I think currently it's just based on the FAA and
Okay.
IDOT standards. I'm not sure what it is exactly.
Mr. Otto?
Presumably, after a year, if they decide to extend it, they would have to come back and we would go through this process again?
Yes, I believe we will.
Okay. I don't see much risk here.
All right. Anything further? Or anybody want to make a motion? You've had your turn, Marilyn. Mr. Otto?
How do you phrase the motion here? So I move whatever it is that we ought to be moving. I move.
I believe the proper way to phrase it is we recommend that the city council defeat a resolution of protest.
So I trust the secretary has got that turned into good English. Thank you.
I'll call that a motion. Mr. Otto made the motion and Mr. Fell seconded it. All right. We can have a roll call.
Mr. Fitch?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Ms. Bant? Yes. Mr. Ash?
Yes.
Ms. Bynum?
Yes.
Mr. Fell?
Yes. And that motion passes. And I presume that'll be coming to the council
March 17th?
March 17th, the official St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
All right, well, that's all the cases that we have, and now I turn it over to audience participation. If anybody would like to address us, you could come up for 5 minutes and talk about anything that's on your mind.
Relevant to the
Relevant to Plan Commission business. Correct. Relevant to Plan Commission business. Ms. McCusick, if you would state your name and sign the paper, that would be great.
Okay, I would, Carol McCusick, 1907 North Cunningham Avenue. So I may have mentioned it at City Council, but the 2013 zoning ordinance online does not have a definition for conditional use, and the print copy of 212, which is no longer online, 2012. Well, this is just the name. You know, I don't accept the idea of an annual zoning ordinance because, basically because you have amendments to it during the course of the year, and the whole thing should be updated and republished on the web with each amendment. But the thing that's titled 2013 zoning ordinance does not have the definition for conditional use, but it was in 2012, which I have at home, but I didn't bring with me print, you know, the one that's got the spiral binding. The ordinance to change it that passed September 16th, it doesn't have a change that removed conditional use. That wasn't part of the text amendment you passed. It goes from something that had to do with carport to something that had to do with dwelling, and there wasn't a removal of conditional. So what I'm wondering, though, if what's indicated might be that any text amendment of the zoning ordinance, what's proposed is the entire ordinance as with the update in it marked. You know, like whatever the pre-existing, the entire base is part of what's proposed. That's a thought. And then basically, I'm thinking that there should be a Board of Government Information, because all the boards have some rules they're making for themselves, but they're different jumping off points for the different boards, and that would be another thing that you'd be sort of plumbing together. The different all boards would be involved, or in sorting out like where is a good place for the for our city to depart from the state law, and for the boards to depart from general city code that applies to all the boards. Now, for example, the Plan Commission, I think it was actually the date that August 22nd, of 2013, when you passed the multi-part text amendment that would end up being the new zone, this 2013 zoning ordinance, because I think that you said, you know, I'm told that we have a quorum, and you had 4 people. And I'm not sure how many commissioners were there were at that point, but that's always very unclear to the public, I must say. And so I'm hoping I can still talk. May I still talk?
You still got a couple minutes, yeah. I will address your quorum point, and I won't, you can, you know. We wouldn't vote on anything with 4 unless there is a strange case where if there's 5, a 5 is a quorum. If there's 5 and a member recuses, then we can still vote with 4, but we have to have 3 votes in any case if there's a 5 or 4. So I don't think we did vote on one recently, but it wasn't the text amendment when Mr. Fell had to recuse himself. We haven't voted on it yet, but anyway, I'm not sure what about those circumstances, but please go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, one thing that just streams into mind is that I hope that the ancient history in the video recordings is what would govern whether they're kept or not, since they're not required by law at all. you know, and how would, like, for example, the FOIA says that the commissions have to have available for inspection. I don't think it says it has to be on the web. You know, they have to have a list of the types of records that they keep. Well, they might just say video recordings of meetings, and then that would seem to say that they have to keep any video recording they make of this meeting, you know. Because I think that some of the TV screens have disappeared from the web that like they go back for 10 meetings or something, and then they're not there anymore. So you don't, it's not like you'd have, you'll have to remember which meetings you are sure at one point that
Sure.
you did see a
I don't know for sure. I don't know the answer to that, and maybe we can look into the policy. But my impression of FOIA is that digital media is a public record, and therefore should be preserved like any other public record. I don't know why we don't post more than a year unless it's just a space issue, you know, or something like that.
well,
The other thing, and then I'll have to have you wind down. I am looking. Are you looking at the zoning ordinance that says current through October 1, 2013? That was published in October 2013. I'm seeing a definition of conditional use on Article 2 definitions, page 10. And I don't know if it's moved or been repaginated or something like that. You can,
We can double check
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
PDF on the web.
because we obviously have to have a definition of conditional use, and we didn't remove it or would never remove it. So, if you want to make a final point, and then we'll have to.
okay,
down.
in the case that you decided on December 5th, there was a letter that was not put up on the web, that raised some questions that staff was answering in the hearing, because it didn't continue beyond December 5th. You made a decision to allow the recycled asphalt shingle recycling, to have special use permits for 910 and 1,000 saline court. So then, on December 16th at City Council, they wouldn't see those concerns in that letter, because it isn't anything that's posted on the web, and the video recording for that meeting was very messed up. It's like completely, it's incoherent. And what I'm thinking is that one of the, the important concerns that they raised was there wasn't any application from the people who were undertaking the recycling asphalt shingle to the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. And it was a little bit, like the materials that they presented were, I think it was confusing, because they had like very beautiful engineering plans for like a wider area, but I think those were, so it wasn't so clear what was going to be completed. I mean, what was going to be completed before they could start their work, I guess. And nobody in the public, for example, is going to know what's really supposed to be happening at those lots. At Public Works, for the environmental sustainability manager, who, according to the department head's secretary anyway, says is supposed to be the main point person on it. He says the thing with any kind of a place that entails what's in the solid waste part of the city code for pollution control siting, pollution control siting facilities, that's like for anything like construction and demolition would fall under that category, apparently, according to the Environmental Sustainability
Ms.
Management.
Bukuski, I'm going to have to ask you to come to a conclusion, please.
So all I'm saying is, you go ahead and make this approval, but there's no timeline on the web or anything for what the people are doing. So I think that doesn't have the public knowing, looking at the process at all from the get-go. So I don't really think that this. My point is, I don't think that the Plan Commission should give special use permitting on a thing like that without this like timeline set up and the whole scope of the thing known by the public.
Okay, well, thank you for your viewpoint.
The city,
Would anybody else like to address the Plan Commission? All right. We've gotten through the business, I believe, unless there is a staff report.
Just a quick update.
Audience participation is closed, ma'am.
The Verdant Prairies Plan Unit Development Preliminary and Final Plan and the preliminary plat for that development that Plan Commission forwarded to Council, those were all approved by City Council in February. And the developer is now seeking funding to proceed with that project. And just an update, the city is undergoing an update to our bicycle master plan. We had some public meetings back in early or mid-February, and we're going to have some more public meetings on April 23rd. We haven't got the location finalized for that yet, though. But you can check out the city website for more information on that.
All right. Ms. Upabant.
Can you tell us about this curb mania or whatever? Are we going to approve new zoning category to accommodate that, or?
Actually, so the Curbana is a,
How do you say it?
it's Curbana.
Okay,
It's Urbana with the C in front of it.
sorry.
So it's a new program that the Economic Development Division and Public Works are working on to allow business owners to install additional seating in parking spaces in the street. So there would be some decking installed and additional seating for businesses that are in the area. And it's a program that's been successful in other cities across the country. So we're trying to build off the success of downtown businesses and allow them to have more outdoor seating for the summer months. So this program, there will be some pilot projects for the program. I think possibly by Crane Alley and another one on Main Street. And basically, it's entirely within the right-of-way of the city, so there's no zoning jurisdiction.
It doesn't go down to the street level.
Right. Yeah, it's elevated about 4 inches or so to be at sidewalk level.
Thanks. Anything else? We don't have a study session, so we are adjourned.